What's going on, everybody? It's your girl, Take Action Low. And again, welcome and thank you for joining in and tuning in and listening to another episode of Take Action with Low, Real Estate Investing Show. What a fantastic guest I have today. Of course, I say that about all my guests, but she really is super awesome. So, Miss Nicole Espinosa. Nicole, thank you so much for being here and for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Sure, no problem. And I know you are known as the short sale queen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Fantastic.
We just recently branded that way, so we went with it.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit about yourself, your journey into your business and short sales more specifically, because you're also a realtor and an author, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. So I've been doing this for about 9 years now. It feels like I haven't been doing it that long, and then it feels like forever. But I'm sure everybody feels that way when in this business. So my background, I actually started doing foreclosures. So I am a licensed agent. I started in the foreclosure market basically when we were working with the banks or for the banks, and so they were our clients. And I was running about 100 to 150 listings a month, and it was crazy. And it was one of those things where, it was probably the worst job I've ever had. Actually, it is the worst job I ever had because I was in charge of like evictions of homeowners after they got foreclosed on, and the banks were like, 12 o'clock deadlines. They weren't even there, but you had to submit things. And for people that may not be familiar what an REO is, it's basically a foreclosure, a real estate owned. And we had at the time, 2008, 2009, it was, the market was heavily flooded, right? That was like prime time for foreclosures. Yeah. And we were managing like 100 to 150 a month. So it definitely was not boring. It was crazy. It was one of those things that at the time it was the worst job I ever had, but it really laid the foundation for what we do now, because it gave me an understanding of how the banks worked and operated. And it really made me understand, the process and how it worked and things like that. So I left there after a couple of years. I got my license, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. I know the hard stuff, but I didn't know as far as being an agent. And my first listing ended up being a short sale. So it kind of just fell into place. Yeah. And it was this challenge. At the time there's still so many misconceptions about short sales, but at the time there wasn't even short sale department. So it's just loss mitigation department. Right. So I was figuring it out with them. And so I developed my process. I remember the first agent I had talked to, they're like, well, the bank won't agree. Like, the bank doesn't do short sales. I'm like, well, I don't know about that. So I did my first one, and honestly, I've been doing it ever since. And so it's one of those things that, for me, my reputation is such a big deal, because I feel like if you do what you say you're going to do, that's all you have, right? Right. And I've been doing it for 9 years. So after a while, after I was teaching classes and things like that, I started being named the short sale queen. People tag me on social media, and just recently we've always been hyper local. So we've always been Dallas, DFW short sale experts, and Houston short sale experts, and we just rebranded to the short sale queen. Awesome. So we're going with it.
Fantastic, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So it's interesting that you said it just fell right into it, and it seems like it was kind of fate, with your first one being a short sale, because I hate short sales. I hate doing short sales before.
You're not the only one.
Oh my God. And I'm sure it's like 95% of investors and other people. And that's why I see that you're doing so well at it, because I know a lot of people don't like to do it, but you found a passion. And as they say, there's riches in the niches. So you can tailor it down to what you're good at and just run with it. Opportunities will just fall in your lap, as they've been doing with yourself. So talk a little bit about what is your motivation. Those days where it's really difficult to get out of the bed. Because, as being an entrepreneur, it can be crazy, it can be stressful, and you have life and family. So on those days, what's a part of your motivation?
So I feel like a part of it is, I mean, you have to know what your why is, right? So as an entrepreneur, I mean, short sales aside, real estate aside, you have to know what your why is. Like you said, what wakes you up in the morning. And so for me, it's always been my kids. It's always been knowing that I wanted to create something, and I know that I can do this. And it was one of those things where even when I was so young, because when I got in the business, I was 20 years old. Wow. So as a realtor, you have this stigma of, an age thing, because in our world, so it's different because obviously I'm very well known in the investor world, but also in the realtor world. And so it was a lot like I had something to prove. I was young, I was ignorant, and I was just like, had this go-to attitude, like, okay, let's do it. And so I feel like there was so much, I knew I could do it. And so as far as waking up every morning, failure wasn't an option. I was the only one making money when I was married. I'm divorced now, but when I was married, I was the only one making the money. And so I was like, well, I never saw it since I always had a salary, and I always had, coming from an office manager, I always had a structure, right? Where you have a paycheck and things like that. And so for me, when I went to commission only, I was like, I have to make money. I have to feed my kids. Like, I don't have a backup plan here. And I don't recommend that. When you go into business, it is a business. But it was just, there was no choice. I mean, it was doing whatever it takes because I knew what my end goal was. I knew that I wanted to build this. I never knew, or I never anticipated that it would be where it is now. And I'm grateful because I have amazing people by my side, and honestly, it really does take a village. Like my office manager, she is amazing, and I could not do this without her. And she's right behind me too, so she can hear me. But seriously though, I mean, all joking aside, really the people you surround yourself with, the team that you have, it's everything. It's your sanity, because we can only do so much. We only have so much time in a day. And so those days where it's so overwhelming, it's really keeping perspective, because I always say this about the industry: when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's so freaking bad. And if you're a real estate investor, you know that, right? Because you could have 6 deals and $100,000, and then you could be negative $100,000, and you're like, oh my God, how did it turn so quickly? And that's just the business that we're in. So it's pushing past it and understanding that it's just a bad day. Okay, let's move forward, because our actions that we do today is the end result of 2 to 3 months from now. So that's how you always have to look at it. You cannot look at today, even if you're super successful today, you have to keep moving forward, because every month that you're not closing, you're unemployed. That's right. I mean, that's the mentality you have to have in this business. Absolutely. And I'm grateful because I've never gone a month unemployed. But mostly because if my phone wasn't ringing, I was coming up with a million different ways to make it ring. Absolutely. And so that's where my mindset was.
Oh, I love that. There's so many things in that you shared that hopefully the followers, especially those that are single mothers. So,
I didn't even bring that
up. But I think it's incredible that you just, you did what you had to do, and that's what a lot of us do. But being an entrepreneur, you have to have a different and a certain mindset, and you have to have extremely thick skin, especially being in this profession of real estate investing and being female, being a woman. I'll just put it out there. So,
absolutely.
You have to have super thick skin, but your team is everything, and also learning how to get out of your own way, which is something that I had to learn as an entrepreneur, because coming from, a background, a family that middle class, they work hard, they can do almost everything, and you're raised that way. And it's like, I'm giving this up. I'm giving this up. But at the same time, you can't grow and expand and scale if you're in your own way.
Well, I love that you said that, because that's my background too. So my family, they're all... my sister is an entrepreneur, and she's amazing. But my dad and my whole side of the family, they only know employee. And so when I did this, and I was so young, he tried so hard talking me out of it. And it wasn't until at this point where he's like, oh, wow, what you're doing it. But it's hard, because when you have people in your life that just don't understand your vision and don't understand, like you said, you have to understand, it's all mindset. Like you said, you have to get out of your own way, because, what's the difference between someone who has the same abilities that is successful and not. I mean, that person understands that I'm going to do whatever it takes, and the other person doubts themselves.
Yes.
So I completely agree with you because I've seen both ends.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. This is great. Can you also share maybe, well, you know what, let's go back a little bit. When we first met for the first time earlier this year at Nikki's, you know, at the New Year's.
Her goal vision.
Yeah, goal vision.
Class.
Exactly. Yeah. I had a chance to hear you then and talk and share a little bit of your story. And I was like, yep, I got to talk to her. But we spoke briefly about foreclosures. And I asked you then, have you started seeing an increase? And you said you had. So I'm sure a few months
ago. That was a while ago too.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the not necessarily the market, but just an increase maybe in short sales that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, I don't know, is your podcast local or is it nationwide?
It's nice. It's nationwide.
It's nationwide. Awesome. Yes. So here locally in Dallas, we've seen the market shift. And I think a lot of people freak out when they see prices go down and things like that. But, you know, real estate's ebb and flow, right? It goes up, it goes down. Specifically with the type of loans that are being done in the last couple of years, I really believe that's why we're seeing an increase in short sales, because we've seen so many new builds, like within the last 2 or 3 years, that are now short sales. So people that have just purchased the homes because they have gotten in over their head and they should have never gotten those loans, which, I mean, does that sound familiar to anybody? Right?
Yeah.
But in those situations, people were so desperate for homeownership because we were in such a hot market that they were putting themselves in situations they couldn't afford the house. Right. And the more that lenders loosen their guidelines to be able to borrow money, you're going to have higher defaults. Right. And so we're seeing so many more short sales specifically here. Now, we are in different markets. So we're seeing a lot in Houston. We're seeing a lot, you know, in Texas specifically. But I think it's just going to increase. I think 2020, we're going to see so many more people in foreclosure, even on a nationwide basis, because of 2014 to 2017 and the type of loans that have happened.
Thank you
so for investors,
much.
It's great.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely right. No, I was just going to say thank you so much for sharing that. That was a huge nugget, everybody. So, and this is someone that has the background that works short sales, so she would know.
I've got to know. Because I got to step up.
That's exactly right. Oh, that's fantastic. So, who do you service? I know you work with investors, right?
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about how you work with investors for those that's listening that maybe want to reach out to you?
Absolutely. So we work with a lot of investors because investors are the ones that are direct marketing to these homeowners that are in default. So a lot of the investors are reaching out to pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, people in bankruptcy, probate, whatever the situation is. And a lot of times when people are in default, you know, they're upside down. So investors can't do anything with those leads. I mean, your main focus as an investor is to get equity. So if the property doesn't have any equity, what do? You walk away. So instead of walking away from that lead, they use us and to be able to purchase the property. Basically what it looks like, you know, you come across a homeowner, they owe too much. So instead of saying, okay, I can't help you, you refer it to us. We will pre-qualify the homeowner, make sure that we have all the information we need, and circle back with you on what you want to purchase the property. So you now have another opportunity to buy the house at a discount, but the lender is the one taking the loss instead of the homeowner. Yeah. So the homeowner does not have to pay anything. We settle their debt, and the investor now gets another pipeline that essentially they wouldn't have before.
Absolutely. Please share your contact information and how everybody can reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can email me at Nicole, Nicole, is your realtor at gmail.com. Or you can call me at 972-832-2621.
Fantastic. Last question. What is your favorite all-time book or maybe podcast or something that you like that maybe changed your life?
So I don't know so I listen to a lot of self-development right now, currently, because maybe my answer would have been different a year ago. But currently right now, I listen to Gary Vee in the morning on my way in. And I just love how raw he is.
Yes.
Like, and I know that some people, and honestly, as an investor, and because that's the people that are listening, I mean, you guys have to you guys are in the same boat, right? We are dealing with, you said earlier, thick skin. And so I love how transparent he is, and, you know, just how real, and it is motivating because it's cutting the BS, you know? So I love podcasts. I have a couple of different ones that I listen to. And generally when I'm getting ready in the morning or on the way to work, like that's my alone time, that I'm not talking to clients and I'm really focusing on what they're saying. And as far as books, right now, I just had this whole conversation about how I'm a salesperson. So I always try to read things that are the opposite of how I think. Okay. So right now I'm reading a book called Scaling Up, which is all about systems and structure. And so that is blowing my mind right now, because I'm like, oh man, it's always the simple concepts that you should have implemented you didn't think about. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Fantastic. Love it. I'm gonna have to check that one out. I heard it's a good one. So Nicole, thank you so much for your time. Again, how can people reach out to you one more time?
Sure, absolutely. So you can call us at 972-832-2621, or you can shoot me an email at Nicole, Nicole, is your realtor @gmail.com. And I also wanted to, as far as books, I did write a book. It's Short Sales Uncensored. So if anyone wants an understanding, it's $10. It's like cheaper than coffee, or I guess you and someone else coffee. And it really gives you an understanding of how to work with these distressed sellers when you are prospecting. So it's a great book to at least get a foundation of the options that the seller has and how to educate and talk to them. So that's available on Amazon too, if they want to use that as a resource.
Fantastic, guys. Pick that up. That will definitely be worth the read, especially since we're looking at a shift and a change in the market.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, Nicole, thank you so much, everybody. As always, now it's time to go take action.
Absolutely. Thank you.